everybody, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Don't go away. Hey gang, it is Paul from Fat Guy Productions coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And today I am joining in with a consortium of other diecast restorers. And what we're doing is the group of us are coming together and agreeing on a topic, and once a month we're doing a restoration of our choice based on the topic. Quite an honor to be invited into this, and I think it's going to be really cool for you because you're going to get to see multiple ways to attack the same topic. And so you're going to be able to see how each one of us picks a topic, or picks our subject for the topic, and how we approach it and get the thing done. So the links will be down below to all of the other members of the consortium so you can go and easily find their projects. And it should be a lot of fun. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and get to my restoration on the topic of luxury cars. So this ugly Jaguar MK10 is going to be the subject of the build today. I don't know if it's just an ugly car or if it's the ugly finish or whatever, but it's pretty ugly, so it's a good opportunity to try and do something to make it look better. Overall, it's in pretty good shape, as you can see here. It rolls, the body's in good shape, the glass is relatively decent, so there's a lot here to work with. So we'll just have to see what we have once we get it apart, and we'll go from there. Now for this car, I'm actually not even using my shielded drilling technique, as it really doesn't need it. There's such a great dimple in this rivet here, so I'm just going to drill the flanged end away and take the car apart. I've got this little tiny screwdriver I like to use to help get the cars apart, and I just love that satisfying click when the base separates from the post. And this one came off pretty easily, so we can go ahead and remove the base. And we can see that the base looks like it's in pretty good shape. Wheels are decent, axles are decent. The only thing I might have noticed is the front bumper might be a little too low, but we can address that later. So here's the interior, and it's got one of those suspension boards in it, but you can see it is really bowed pretty badly, so it's probably not working at all. So we're going to have to pay a little bit of attention to that. And other than that, the interior is plain and boring, and it's got that useless trailer hitch, and in this build I might actually take it off. Alright, the windshield was held in by a rivet. After drilling that, we're able to just kind of pop it out of there, and it's in okay shape. And since I don't have a spare, I'm going to have to roll with this one no matter what, so fortunately it's not the worst I've seen. Body looks great, the flipping hood is solid and connected properly. No real damage to the body other than this ugly color, the chipping paint and stuff. Now, a lot of you guys have seen me in the past brush on my stripper. In my previous life of restoring diecast, I used to do this and just drop them in. I switched to the brush for a myriad of reasons, but after seeing some other guys like Time Rider and whatnot go back to just a dunk tank, I've decided that that's what I'm going to do for myself. Well, while that's doing its magic, I can go ahead and start on cleaning parts. I'm just going to clean the windshield and interior and stuff. I kind of joined this co-op at the last second and only had like 5 total days to get this project picked, done, and the video up and posted. So I didn't have a lot of time to waste. So I'm just moving step to step as fast as I can. So after cleaning the windshield, I'm taking the flitz and the Q-tip, and I'm just kind of polishing the windshield inside and out as best I can all the way around before it ends up taking a swim in the gauzy. Now, you've seen me rotate the gauzy here before. I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit without inducing a bunch of bubbles. And basically, all you got to do is dip and let dry. So there was a bubble. Get rid of that sucker. And so we'll get the windshield here. We'll take it and give it a little bit of a dunk. Trying to avoid the bubbles. I don't want a bubble right in the middle of my windshield. And when I pull it out of here, since there are a few bubbles in the gauzy, I will check it. And everything is looking pretty good. So now we can go ahead and wick away all the excess. And basically just touch it to a corner of the windshield that's not going to be seen, and it will kind of use capillary action to pull off the excess gauzy. You know, just be careful you don't damage the surface at all. You want that to be pristine. Once we're done doing that, we can go ahead and set it down to dry. And I put it on a little stick here so it doesn't glue itself to the paper plate, which, yes, I have had happen. And then we can go ahead and take some kind of a cover. In my case, I'm just using a spray paint cap. And we'll go ahead and put that over the top of the glass to let it dry without getting any woolly boogers to land on it and screw up our finish. Alright, so here I am, I'm looking at the base, and I'm going to go ahead and get the wheels off. And yeah, you can grind the end off. It's a personal choice. I have done it that way, but I kind of prefer as my first option to use my flat-jawed pliers and to kind of squeeze the crimp down so I can get the wheel off. And all I do is just squeeze, turn a little bit, squeeze, turn a little bit, squeeze, turn a little bit until the wheel will come off. And I think it just leaves me a little bit more material to make it easier to go ahead and round it over when I put everything back together. So this is just kind of the way I prefer to do it, but, you know, I guess it depends on what mood I'm in. Okay, so once I've flattened the axle out enough and the wheels will pop off, I can take all of that out and take that apart. And now I can take a look at this base, and yeah, this front bumper seems to be tilted up just a little, so I'm just going to put just the tiniest bit of pressure on it, just to bring it down a hair, to get it lined up to where I think it needs to be. I don't want the body to be too lonely in the hot liquid goo phase, so in goes the base, and we'll leave that too, and we'll get back to those in a little bit here. You all know that I'm a little odd, and I love watching the stripper broil the paint off these cars, and putting it in the vat does diminish it a little bit, but you can still see through it and see it doing its thing, so it's not the biggest trade-off in the world, and it certainly is easier. Okay, so while the stripper continues to do its thing, I can go ahead and pay attention to the wheels. I've got a little bit of super clean and a little bit of water here. I'm plopping the wheels in. After they've soaked for a few minutes, I'll go ahead and hit them up with a toothbrush on both sides, and then kind of rub them off onto this shop towel. And I get really great results out of doing it this way. They come out looking like new and shiny. So I don't really end up having to do much else to them. If the wheel's in worse condition, certainly a wash is an option, but generally speaking, if the wheels are in pretty good shape, this is really all I need to do for them. I mean, look at this. You certainly can't argue with the results, right? Look at that. Look how nice that is. No wash, no nothing. Just cleaned. Okay, so now we can chuck up the axles into my drill and hit them up with a little 4/0 steel wool, clean the axles and make sure we get the little button end. And then when I'm done, I'll take it out of the truck and I'll just kind of run the 4/0 steel wool over the tip that is in the truck right now. Okay, so we can check back in on the warm liquid goo phase. I think everything's been in here long enough, and although the paint may still be laying on the body, it's not going to be adhering. I think we can go ahead and pull this out, and when we take it to the sink with a toothbrush and some warm water, we should be able to wash away the last of the stripper and any of the residual paint, and we should have a nice clean body and base ready to go. So we'll go ahead and pluck this sucker out of here and head to the sink. Okay, so we're back from the sink. Sure enough, all the paint is off. And like all of my builds, I like to first hit the car up with the brass bristle brush and then a little 4/0 steel wool just to kind of even everything out and homogenize it. I'm not a big sanding guy, so unless the car is demanding sanding, it ain't getting it. Okay, so the body looks great, and before I paint it then, I'm going to go ahead and drill the post out the rest of the way. All I did at first was just remove the flanged end that was holding it together. Now I'm actually going to drill into the post to make a room for the button head screw that will hold this all back together. So the rule is slow and easy is wins the race here. So slow and easy, otherwise you'll blow out the side of your post. I do have taps, but I generally don't tap. I generally don't need to. Some guys do, some guys don't. You know, it's a matter of personal preference, but I'll go ahead and run the screw in here, make sure everything is fitting, and then I can head to the paint booth. So there's no way in the world that this was going to get that ugly gold paint back on it. And so this car seemed to beg me to use Createx and the Candy 2.0 paint from Createx. So we're going to start by misting down my booth and giving the body and base a quick prime using Tamiya Fine Primer. This stuff is amazing. If you can't justify the $11 for the can of it, I suggest this. Buy one, try it. You'll be sold. Now, because I'm going to do candy, I'm going to go ahead and put down a chrome base on this thing. And to do that, I'm going to use my All-Clad. And I start by laying down the All-Clad glossy black base. This is what really makes the chrome happen. So, again, using a tack coat, and then some medium coats, and then some wet coats, I'm going to get myself a very nice glossy black base finish, and then we can move on to laying down the All-Clad chrome paint. Now, you don't have to use two different products here. Createx does have its own black base, and it has its own silver base. I'm using the All-Clad because it's stuff that I have on hand, so why spend more money? Okay, so now I've turned the pressure on my compressor way, way, way down, and the trick to using All-Clad is to apply it in super light, fine coats. Several coats, building it up slowly and lightly. All right, if you go too fast and put it on too thick, you're going to ruin the chrome effect. And once you see what looks like black chrome, you're right at the doorstep, okay? So now it's time to be really, really careful. Very light on the trigger, very low pressure on your compressor, and it's going to look chrome and shiny, but it's also going to have like some speckles on it, and those are going to just polish off really easily right at the end there when everything's dry. But you can see we've got ourselves a really nice chrome base here, and it's going to let the Createx take to this car beautifully. It's going to look amazing. I actually enlisted the help of my wife, and we decided blood red was the color of the day for this car. I think it's going to look amazing. So we've got some blood red Createx Candy 2.0 paint. And now I don't know why. I guess I just had a brain fart, but I didn't mix it the way I think you're supposed to, and I didn't apply it the way you're supposed to. But boy, it came out amazing doing it this way. So you can see I've got about, well, let's call it 2-to-1 or almost half and half of the paint to the balancing clear, and then just a little bit of the Createx thinner so that it'll be the right consistency for airbrushing. But that is a lot more of the balancing clear. The ratio is more like almost equal than, you know, I think what it's supposed to be. And in the end, instead of getting like a satin finish, I am going to get the highest glossy finish in the world, so much so that I'm not going to put any clear coat on this car, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so again, I've misted down my airbrush booth to help keep down any dust, and I'm loading up the airbrush cup, and we can go ahead and start laying this paint down, and I'm going to lay it down in many, many light layers, okay? Which is, I believe, the way Createx is supposed to go down to help you keep an even finish in that candy. But I'm going to put so many layers on and go so deep to get this color really just deep, 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 deep. And in the end, it is going to be spectacular. So maybe by mistake, or maybe this is how it's supposed to be. I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research on this. But all I know is this finish came out amazing. So right now I'm laying down what I would call my tack coat, and I'm gonna put on many layers of medium coats, and then finally I am putting down almost a wet coat, and it's looking so good that I put down like 2 wet coats on this sucker, and I could not believe the finish I got out of this. It's not the way I understood it was supposed to work. So if I ever get an update on this, I'll be sure to come back and let you know. But suffice it to say, at about a 2-to-1 or 50-50 mix of balancing clear and paint, and putting it on like I put on my other paints, like my Redline paints, my Spectraflame paints, I got the most amazing finish and didn't have to put any clear on it or anything. And you're going to see what I'm talking about. Now, I've only used this Createx Candy 2.0 paint twice. The first time was in the One Beat Bug that you saw in one of my earlier videos, and now. And yes, indeed, the Beat Bug dried to a kind of a satin finish. This is anything but a satin finish, and yes, that is dry as hell. Look at that. Look at the shine in that. It is absolutely beautiful. All right, it's time to turn my attention to the base. Oh, never mind. So now it's time to turn our attention to the interior. The hell with the base. Okay, the interior came in the ugly standard Matchbox cream, which really isn't indicative of a luxury car's tan leather. So I mixed up a little Vallejo paint to something I thought was a little closer to like a tan leather that you might find in a luxury car, and I'm just brush painting it onto the interior. And then I added a few dark wood details. Now here was a big bozo no-no. Remember I told you about the suspension board being super curved? I had dipped it in boiling water, straightened it and ran it under cool water, and had it pretty much straight. But overnight it started to arch a little bit more again, and I thought, well, I'll just redo it. Well, it didn't like that, and I ended up breaking it. So I'm going to have to make a new one. So basically I saved the pieces, and I'm going to sketch something out on a piece of matching thickness sheet styrene, and I'm going to cut the piece out and make my own suspension board. So I've never done this before. Let's just hope it works. Basically, all I'm trying to do is just score the plastic in the pattern that I need, and then I'll actually just break it off the rest of the way along the score lines, and that works fine. Once I get this cut to shape, I'll put a little hole in the middle of it, and we'll do a test fit and see how it's going to work. Hopefully, it'll be a perfect fit. Okay, so after a little carving and trimming and test fitting and stuff, it looks like we've got a winner here. Winner, chicken dinner. And it looks like it just kind of snaps in here on that little post. Now, the original had a couple little pegs that went the opposite direction to kind of hold it in place. But there's also parts molded into the interior, which will keep it from moving around. So all you got to do is get the general shape of it, put the hole in the middle, and snap it on, and you're in business. From start to finish, this has been one of the fastest builds I've ever done. I'm not used to working at this pace or doing these videos at this pace, so if I sound like a blathering idiot during this video, you'll have to forgive me. Hopefully next month in the challenge video, I'll sound a little less moronic. But anyhow, be that as it may, it is time to put this thing back together. So we'll start by dropping in the dried windshield. Looks amazing. There's the tan interior with the replacement for the suspension system. I'll put that in there. Now I'm having problems. I don't know why. And the problem is this little steering wheel needs to be pushed further in. It was kind of landing in the wrong place. So I just pushed it further down in. Try it again. and it dropped right in. So now we can go ahead and put the suspension board back in. Kind of pressing it down on that little post to make sure it stays in place. And now we can go ahead and bring the base over. The base just goes over a little tab at the front, hooks onto that, then drops down over the back post. And I think it is, who is it? I think it's Time Rider, who is always putting his screws into the body before he paints them so that the screw ends up being color matched. Well, this is the first time I've ever done that. So I had the screw in the post the entire time I painted it. So yeah, the screw is color matched to the body, which is actually looking kind of cool. All right, short of a little detail painting, there it is. And look at that paint. I'm still in awe of that. And yes, look at that. My suspension worked! Woohoo! Score 1 for the good guys. And with the detail painting done, here it is. My finished product, the Jaguar MK10 by Lesney Matchbox. And I think you would have to agree that this looks way better than it did when I started. Alright, well there you have it, my Jaguar MK10, and I have to tell you, okay, this car started out ugly. Okay, it was an ugly, ugly car. And I don't know if it was the paint color or just its condition or what have you. But now with this deep ruby red Createx paint on here and the chrome from the multi-chrome pen, it just, everything is popping on this car. And I could not be happier with it, and it's actually probably one of my favorites of recent times, especially done in the time constraint that I had. Well, I hope you loved it, and I hope you enjoy watching the other members of the consortium and their builds as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, click the bell to be notified anytime I release a new video. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. I love to talk with you guys. You guys are amazing. Alright, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And until next time, I hope you have the most amazing, fabulous, wonderful, ruby red kind of day. Be good.